So you want to know what it really takes to be a fire service vehicle operator.
It's more than just a need for speed.
Way more. We're diving deep into this career path beyond the sirens and the flashing lights. We've got a career guide here that's going to give us the inside scoop.
We're talking about the nitty-gritty, those hidden complexities that most people don't even consider.
Exactly. And one thing that really jumps out from the guide is this. Being a fire service vehicle operator is about so much more than just driving. I mean, you're responsible for making sure every single piece of equipment on that truck is exactly where it needs to be.
Ready to go at a moment's notice. Every second counts in an emergency.
Absolutely. The guide really emphasizes those unexpected skills. We're talking coordination, critical thinking. You've got to have serious mental agility to handle the pressure of this job.
It's that blend of physical and mental toughness that makes this role so fascinating, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And let's not forget about the environment. This isn't some cushy office job. This is a career where you're out there braving the elements, facing danger head on.
It's demanding, no doubt. But that's often where that incredible camaraderie comes in. The guide talks about how crucial teamwork is in this field, especially during those high-stress situations.
Makes sense, a true brotherhood and sisterhood forged in the face of danger. But despite those challenges, we also found that this career path offers some pretty amazing perks.
The job outlook is incredibly promising. The guide projects a 7% growth rate over the next 10 years, which makes sense.
It does, with more demand for first responders and a lot of experienced firefighters retiring.
It creates incredible job security and amazing opportunities for advancement.
The guide even breaks down some really cool career paths you can start as a trainee and work your way up to a supervisory role.
You can even specialize in things like hazardous materials or technical rescue.
Now that's what I call a career ladder.
And speaking of ladders, think about all the new technologies changing the game of firefighting. Drones are becoming increasingly common. I bet that has a huge impact on a fire service vehicle operator's job.
It really makes you wonder, right? What will this job look like in the future? We've got self-driving cars already. Could we see AI being used to navigate those massive fire trucks through busy streets?
Or even operate them remotely. It's a fascinating thing to consider.
It really is. And while we're talking about the future, the guide also touches on something really important. The human side of this job. It's not just about the technical stuff, it's about dealing with people, often in very emotionally charged situations.
Absolutely, and that brings us to one detail from the guide that I found particularly interesting. Social perceptiveness is listed as a key skill for fire service vehicle operators.
Now that might seem a little out of left field, but...
Not at all. Think about it. In those high-pressure moments, you're not just handling a vehicle, you're dealing with your team, you're dealing with the public.
Yeah.
Being able to read the room.
Understanding people's emotional states.
It's crucial for communication and teamwork. It shows that even in a field dominated by technology, it's those human connections that really make a difference.
That's a brilliant point. So much more to it than meets the eye. Speaking of which, this job isn't limited to just big city fire scenes, is it?
Definitely not. We're talking about all kinds of settings, residential areas, industrial complexes, commercial districts.
And of course, let's not forget about wildfires. Imagine maneuvering a fire truck through a blazing forest.
Talk about a test of skill and nerve.
Okay, so we've established this job is way more complex than it seems. But where does someone even begin? Luckily, our guide lays out the initial steps aspiring fire service vehicle operators can take.
It all starts with, taking that first step.
It's about showing that you're serious about this career path.
Yeah, it's not enough to just, have a clean driving record.
The guide actually recommends things like volunteering at your local fire department.
Even doing ride-alongs, getting that first-hand experience.
It's like a test drive before you fully commit. I kind of like that analogy.
Let's see if you've got what it takes.
Exactly. So, let's say you've dipped your toes in, you're ready for the real deal. What's next?
The guide lays out a clear progression. It starts with the fire service vehicle operator trainee position.
So you're basically learning the ropes from the ground up.
Exactly. You're assisting with driving, getting familiar with the equipment.
And I'm guessing those safety protocols are drilled into you from day one.
Absolutely. Safety is paramount in this field. The guide emphasizes that over and over again.
It actually gives a really interesting example, a profile of a typical trainee.
Someone who's not just eager to learn, but really detail-oriented, meticulous about safety procedures.
It's inspiring to see that level of dedication, even at the entry level.
It shows you how seriously they take this job, and rightly so.
Absolutely. So once you've paid your dues as a trainee, you're ready to step up to the role of a full-fledged fire service vehicle operator.
Now, you're the one behind the wheel responding to those emergency calls.
Talk about a responsibility.
It is, and it goes beyond just driving.
Yeah.
You're also making sure all the equipment's ready to go.
Like the guide says, no rummaging for the right hose when every second counts.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're also starting to take on more of a mentorship role, guiding new trainees.
Passing on that hard-earned knowledge. I love that aspect of it.
Another example of that teamwork we keep coming back to.
It really is woven into the fabric of this profession, isn't it?
Absolutely. But for those who are looking for even more responsibility, there's the Senior Fire Service Vehicle Operator position.
Okay, so what does that entail?
Well, it's a big step up in terms of leadership. You're overseeing an entire fleet of vehicles.
Wow, that's a lot to handle.
It is. You're managing emergency response operations, coordinating resources, even developing training programs.
Sounds like a natural progression for someone with a real passion for this work.
And a talent for leadership. You've got to be able to motivate and inspire your team.
Absolutely. But the guide doesn't stop there, does it? It even talks about the possibility of moving into a supervisory role.
That's right. For those with a strategic mind, becoming a fire service vehicle operator supervisor is a real possibility.
So you're basically overseeing multiple teams of operators at that point.
Exactly. You're developing procedures for the whole department, coordinating those large-scale emergencies.
It's the big picture stuff. You're not just thinking about one truck or one team anymore.
You're thinking about the entire operation, how it all fits together.
And I'm guessing that requires a deep understanding of the technology involved.
Absolutely. Technology is constantly evolving in this field, which is why the guide emphasizes the importance of continuous learning.
It's not just about what you know on day one. It's about your willingness to adapt and stay current.
Whether it's attending conferences, taking courses, or getting certified in the latest technologies, there's always something new to learn.
It sounds like a career that keeps you on your toes in a good way.
Definitely keeps things interesting.
And speaking of certifications, the guide actually lists a few key ones that aspiring fire service vehicle operators should have on their radar.
The Emergency Vehicle Operator course, or EVOC, is a big one.
So that's all about safely and effectively operating those emergency vehicles.
Exactly. Think precision driving, handling those tight maneuvers under pressure.
It's about preparing for the unpredictable nature of the job, which, let's face it, is a big part of the appeal.
And the guide also mentions the value of becoming an emergency medical technician, or EMT.
Which makes perfect sense when you consider that fire service vehicle operators are often the first ones on the scene.
Those medical skills can be absolutely crucial in those first few minutes before the paramedics arrive.
It could literally mean the difference between life and death.
Exactly. It's about being prepared for anything.
And speaking of being prepared, the guide goes into detail about the intense interview process for this role.
They even provide a whole bunch of potential interview questions, which I'm sure our listeners will appreciate.
Let's dive into those questions. I'm ready to be put in the hot seat, metaphorically speaking, of course.
All right then, first question. Can you tell me about your experience operating fire service vehicles?
Now, that might seem like a pretty straightforward question, but
But there's more to it than meets the eye. They want to know about your decision-making process behind the wheel.
how you handle those challenging driving situations. Have you ever had to think on your feet?
Exactly. They're looking for evidence of those core skills we've been talking about. Critical thinking, coordination, that social perceptiveness.
It's not just about driving in a straight line, it's about navigating the unexpected.
All right, next question. How do you ensure the safety of yourself and others while operating a fire service vehicle?
Okay, so this one's a gut check. They want to see how seriously you take safety.
Exactly. They want to hear about your personal safety checklist, your knowledge of traffic laws, especially those pertaining to emergency vehicles.
It's about showing that you're not just a skilled driver, but a responsible one.
Someone who understands the weight of those lives potentially at stake.
Okay, next question. Can you describe a time when you had to respond to an emergency situation while operating a fire service vehicle?
This is your chance to share a compelling story, something that highlights your skills and experience in action.
But remember, it's not just about recounting the events. You need to walk them through your thought process.
The specific actions you took, the lessons you learned, they want to see how you operate under pressure.
How you communicate with your team, how you contribute to a positive outcome. Those are the details that matter.
Okay, next question. How do you maintain and inspect fire service vehicles to ensure they are in proper working order?
So this question gets at that often overlooked aspect of the job, the maintenance side of things.
It's not just about driving. It's about taking ownership of those vehicles, making sure they're always ready to go.
Being meticulous, detail-oriented, those are valuable qualities in this line of work.
And it shows that you understand that a well-maintained vehicle is essential for a successful outcome.
Okay, next question, and this one really highlights the collaborative nature of this work. Can you explain the role of a fire service vehicle operator in a multi-agency response to a large-scale emergency?
This is about understanding how different emergency services work together. Police, fire, medical production, it's all hands on deck in those situations.
And as a fire service vehicle operator, you're right in the thick of it, coordinating with everyone.
It's about clear communication, following the chain of command, working together towards a common goal.
It's about being a team player, plain and simple, so it's not just what you know, it's what you're willing to learn.
Exactly. Show them that you're hungry for knowledge, always looking to improve.
Okay, next question on the list, and this one gets at the heart of teamwork. How do you approach working with a team to respond to an emergency situation?
Teamwork is everything in this field, right?
Absolutely. So what are they looking for with this question?
They want to see that you can communicate effectively, listen actively.
Can you handle conflict when the pressure's on? Those are essential skills in an emergency.
And a good story can really drive that point home. Think about a time when you had to collaborate under pressure. Share that experience with them.
Real-world examples always pack a punch.
Sure.
All right, next question, and this one sounds intense. Can you describe a time when you had to navigate challenging terrain or weather conditions while operating a fire service vehicle?
Okay, so now they're really testing your mettle. Can you handle the unexpected?
Exactly. Think icy roads, dense fog, maybe even a flash flood.
They want to know that you can adapt your driving skills to those unpredictable situations.
Because let's face it, in this line of work, the unexpected is always right around the corner.
It comes with the territory.
Okay, final question from the guide, and it's a big one. What steps do you take to ensure the proper handling and storage of hazardous materials on a fire service vehicle?
So this goes beyond just driving. It's about those safety protocols, handling dangerous substances responsibly.
It's about protecting yourself, your team, and the public.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You need to demonstrate a deep understanding of those hazmat regulations, that meticulous attention to detail.
Safety first, always.
Couldn't agree more.
Wow, this guide really gives a whole new perspective on the interview process for fire service vehicle operators.
It's not easy, that's for sure.
But for those who are cut out for it.
It's an incredibly rewarding career path.
Absolutely. So before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier. The role of AI in the future of firefighting.
Yeah. You know how much I love geeking out about the potential of technology?
Me too. And I think this is an area where AI could really revolutionize things.
For sure, we talked about AI-assisted navigation, maybe even remote operation of fire service vehicles.
But what other possibilities are out there?
Well, the guide mentioned RoleCatcher using AI for recruitment, right? But imagine using AI to analyze real-time data during a fire.
Okay, so we're talking sensors, drones, feeding information back to an AI system.
Exactly. AI could help predict fire behavior, identify hazards, even suggest the best strategies for containment.
It'd be like having a super intelligent co-pilot in those high-pressure situations.
You know, right? Talk about a game changer.
It's mind-blowing. But it also makes you wonder, how would the role of the fire service vehicle operator evolve with all these advancements?
That's the million-dollar question. As technology advances, so too will the skills required of these professionals.
Perhaps the fire service vehicle operator of the future will need to be adept at interpreting AI-generated data, making judgment calls based on a combination of human intuition and machine intelligence. It's a brave new world out there.
No doubt. It'll be fascinating to see how it all unfolds.
It will. Well, on that note, it's time to bring this deep dive to a close. But before we do, what are some key takeaways our listeners should remember about the world of fire service vehicle operators?
This is a career for those who thrive on challenge, who run towards danger, not away from it.
It's about having the courage to face the unexpected, the composure to make split-second decisions,
And the compassion to help others in their time of need.
it's about being a skilled driver, a quick thinker, a true team player.
And a lifelong learner, because this field is always evolving.
To all those brave men and women out there on the front lines, we salute you.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.